Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 game development live stream where we're being back in our gas course project. A game built from scratch using Unreal Engine 5, of course, the gameplay ability system plugin, Blueprint, C++, and all that good stuff. So today I want to change things up. I wonder if I can change this to something dark, like dark mode, just because I could see how bright everything kind of is on stream, so apologies for that. Maybe I can figure that out somehow. Maybe I can quickly look at it. But what we're going to do today is just work on designing kind of like a deck building mechanics for our game. Because I want to evolve the gameplay a little bit, because right now we're just working on base systems, not really working on any sort of like combat loop. So I want to figure that out. And part of that discussion that I've been having with a friend is potentially adding, I guess, deck building mechanics into it. So I want to blend third-person action game with these kind of deck builder games where not only do you have to fight enemies real time, but there's another overarching AI enemy that you're also fighting against in some sort of way. I don't want it to be like a one-to-one, Magic the Gathering type of fighting game, not fighting game, but card game. But I want the overarching AI enemy to be using cards and stuff actively against you, and then you use your own cards to either counteract those things or improve your actual in-game character during specific waves or set of waves or a certain amount of time. So I kind of want to start thinking of some ideas, and that's what this stream is going to be. I already have some stuff down here, some of the ideas where we have card types and categories and what these could possibly look like and what they can mean. Hey, Casper. Thanks for popping in. Hopefully you're doing good. No, this is the same project. So I'm taking, I'm taking what we have right now and I want to evolve it with these deck building mechanics. So right now I want to just design a little bit, see what we can do for a beginning prototype without injecting it into what we already have with our gas course project. So that's what we're going to work on today. I just want to see first, does Figma have a dark mode? So Figma does have a dark mode. It can be enabled through the main menu by navigating to... Okay, how do I exit? So main menu, preferences. Then is there dark mode? Color profile? No. So there should be preferences and then theme. There's no theme. Which is interesting. I don't see themes. Am I blind? There is a desktop app. Maybe I can do that. So yeah, apologies for just now setting stuff up. Let's just quickly install this. Let's see if it's any better. But yeah, the basic idea, I want to have like in between rounds or in between waves, whatever we want to say it. Like I want you to be able to purchase your cards, or maybe replenish cards. Maybe cards are one use per round, and you have to like not revitalize it, but reset their charges and stuff like that. And then other times it's like I don't 100% know. Like I'm doing two things at once, so I'm kind of tripping over my own thoughts here. Game design. All right, so we're still back in all white here. So do I have the option now? Seems to be the same. Nothing with color profile. Let's see. don't really see anything. This is the menu. Preferences, and then nothing for theme. Why? Can I right click or anything? Actions. Is there anything for a theme? No. Sorry for struggling right now. Templates, pages. Is there a theme? I just don't want white. Why is this so hard? Okay, I gotta watch the tutorial.
Name it with which. Select the first variant and click Prototype. Click on the Dark control.
This is kind of embarrassing and upsetting that I can't figure this out. Maybe it doesn't matter. Hopefully you guys are okay with just the white screen. And hopefully you guys can see this relatively clearly. But yeah, card types and categories, this is one of the big things, but also the big thing is the actual deck and its construction. Yeah, UX design software doesn't have easily accessible dark mode. Is it like manage plugins? Is there like dark mode? Okay. So I guess I kind of have dark mode. I guess. But yeah, let's not focus on that right now. So yeah, card types, categories is one thing, but card synergies, deck building. So I'm just wondering how it should work in terms of like when you can play a card during gameplay versus when you can't. So, for example, let me just stop an enemy from spawning for now. So, like, as you're playing, right? Like, how we would have to change the UI for sure, right? I would imagine somewhere on the left-hand side of your screen, like basically, what I would imagine is we would move the health bar and potentially the mana bar into the middle, or the cards would be in the middle. And basically, how I would imagine it is, you're playing the game, and you can use like your left and right D-pads to kind of like shuffle through your hand and select a card, and I don't know, up on the D-pad or something will execute the card. I'm just wondering, like, how many cards are in your hand? Is it like 5 cards? Do we start you off with 3 cards? Do you upgrade the number of cards you can have in your hand? Can there be cards that let you have more cards in your hands? Can the AI, execute a card that, wipes all of the cards out of your hand and you have to redraw? Like, what does redrawing phases look like? And how do we balance that with like the real-time elements of the game where, you're kind of fighting enemies and stuff, but at the same time you're like looking at, cards to execute, you know what I mean? Like, is that asking too much? of the player. Is that too much to balance or manage for the player? Like, can they easily see these things? Is it better to have just 3 cards at one time and you kind of just can shuffle through them real quick and be like, tap, 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 and it just shuffles, not shuffles, but parses them through, and you see it pop up, you see what kind of card you have, and then you press up on the D-pad or something to select that card, and then how does that look like on keyboard and mouse? Maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something it can be mapped to. So 1 does the first position, 2, 3, 4, 5, that kind of thing. And then where does the information about the AI come in? Like this, card dealing opponent side of it. Could be like in the top right where it says, this card's been executed, or they play this card. We want to have ways to see what they have in their hand and show that to the player. So those are some of the big questions that I have right now. So I gotta just kind of think out loud about these things. Like, I would imagine, like in between waves, you kind of select your loadout, which is your set of cards. But like, how many cards can be in your deck? How do we make progression in that sense? Do you start with like 10 cards in a deck, and then you can like upgrade through leveling to say like, okay, now you can do 15, now you can do 20, you can do 25, up to a cap of like whatever. And you can always choose, not to, have that many cards in your deck at once. You can always say, like, I can have a max of 30, but I choose to have like 15 because of X, Y, and Z reasons. Maybe like, because here I have some examples of like, it would be interesting to have like Exodia kind of cards, where if you have all 5 in your hand, you could do something special. But obviously, if we don't tell players that they, say they have these 5 cards, then they just have it in their hand at the beginning, they could just execute it. But maybe if we balance it out where, this super duper awesome card isn't super duper whatever, because like maybe this Exodia level kind of thing will just kill all enemies on the battlefield, but that, then that's your deck. You only do it once per wave or whatever cooldown we have with them. Maybe that's okay, because I don't know if cards should even have cooldowns. Like, should it be once per wave, once per set of waves, whatever? So maybe that's also something to think about too. It's like, is a card wave based? Is it round based? How are we structuring the combat loop there? So concerns could also start there, where it's like, okay, are we doing rounds or waves or both? And what does one round look like versus one wave? Like, is one round 3 waves? Is it a variable type of waves? How do we make the waves more progressively more difficult? Maybe that's the whole thing, where it's like you can keep building your deck out, but the cards don't, they're once per round. So once you use a card, it's discarded into some sort of graveyard kind of situation. Maybe you can then have a card that says, okay, pull your cards back out from the graveyard, or pull all cards of this type out in the graveyard, or for every card of this type in your current graveyard, multiply your character strength by 10% for each one. So then your guy just becomes super powerful and can kind of, wreck house for 30 seconds or something like that. And again, like it's gonna be difficult, I guess, both UX and UI wise. Like, how do we how do we show this information? Like, because like if a card were to say, you know, for every type, you know, for every fire-based spell card in your discard pile, gain 10%. Should the card itself kind of read how many of those cards you have in your graveyard? So it'll give you the numbers dynamically, just so you don't have to really keep track of those things. Maybe that's the way to go. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any ideas on that. I think that would be kind of super helpful. But let's start. Oops, no. Let's start talking about. Oh my God! What did I just do? Ah. Copy. Paste. Like I'm pasting, but it's not pasting anything. That's because it's locked. Oh. Yeah, every time I paste, it just does some funky shit. Okay. I guess I could create a new shape. I'm not very familiar with Figma. Maybe I can... I disable the plugin in some way. Manage plugins. To remove this effect, okay, cool. I guess this free one is lame. Displaying it dynamically would make wonders, especially if you were, for example, hover over your damage stat, be able to see what cards are affecting that stat. Yeah. But I don't know where I don't know if I would want to split. Like, I guess we would need to, like, because again with these cards, like maybe during actual gameplay though, that's where my concern kind of lies. You know, like as you're kind of doing these things, at least with, yeah, I guess in both cases, keyboard and mouse and stuff. Because I don't know if I want to make your mouse visible. Like, how do I kind of display these cards in the pertinent data that makes sense and gives you all the information you'll need to make a good choice? Because maybe it could be also interesting to like have weapon cards, for example, where, you know, by default you don't have any weapon, so like you could do kind of like how we had before, like just like punches and stuff like that, or, you know, you have this like magic mode and you kind of do this, or one of the suggestions that my friend was making was you can have like class cards, so like you could you know, at the beginning choose a like barbarian card or a mage card or, I don't know, necromancer card or something. Or it would make maybe more sense to, like, you could choose a class of character at the beginning of your run, and then, you know, kind of, you know, construct your deck around that kind of character. So if you have like a necromancer or something like that, you know, you could have a card that says, you know, for every enemy that you've killed, you know, spawn a, you know, skeleton that fights with you, or, you know, spawn a pylon or for 10 seconds or something like that. But again, yeah, it's just an open question about UX and UI. Like, how do I make this more kind of clear? And also, like, potentially like ability cards as well. So, you know, Like this could be an ability or something. Obviously, melee is another thing. Maybe we can have stuff that augments your heavy attack or something. Which would be interesting. I don't know how I would do that logic-wise, but it would be nice to have, like, you know, these ability slots so you can have, like, you know, up to 4 different abilities. And, you know, at the beginning, you know, these abilities are granted through these cards, but as you use these cards persistently through different waves and rounds, you unlock these abilities permanently. And then you can add augmentations to those abilities through cards, where you could say, like, okay, when you activate this card, your crash. Like, as you have a card that says, as you know, your fire projectile now, you know, applies burn twice as fast or something. So what happened here? Hook broke. Maybe I have to do some check, because it can ricochet. Let me just put a note later what to do. Why does game crash when hitting object? Landscape. Okay, let's get back. So, other question. All right, let's start. My plugins. Let's get rid of that. So I have a Figma thing here. Can I can't paste for some reason. That's so annoying. Can I, like, unrun it? Let's reopen up Figma. Do I still have dark mode enabled? I do. Fuck. Dang it. Like, why does it... Is it, like, pasting it somewhere random? Okay. Let's ask Google. Figma, how to disable plugin? Like, so to remove this effect, and Okay, maybe I can click on this thing. Send to back. Now when I copy paste, no. This is like impossible, like impossible mode. Why is this like this interface is so bad? Unless I just suck at what I'm trying to do, you know, which is possible. Manage plugins, dark mode, like it says run, but then I'm not able to unrun it either. So it's right here, right? Recents. How do I not like run it? Like the struggle is real. Let's see. Oh wait, hold on. Wait, what? This is tough. Plugins free, manage plugins. Like where do I go to undo it? You know, like this is so bad. Like all that gives me is an option to run. Like and now I got a freaking Figma app on my PC that I don't want. The struggle is so real. Yeah, there's no. Oh my god. Like this has to be like the worst application like ever. Like there's no undo button. Like does the GitHub say anything? No. Oh my god. I don't know. I prefer Miro. Miro is 1,000 times more intuitive than this right now. Like the fact that it doesn't give me an option to undo it. That's wild to me. Like, what is this? Like, is this a skill issue? Like, I don't want to run it. I want to unrun it, please. Can I just copy all this into a new thing? Oh. Okay. Can I copy and paste this now? Like, I can't do anything in here. What is going on? Like, this is this, right? I'm moving it around. I select this. Copy, paste. Thank you. Holy crap. Alright, can I turn this like gray? Yeah. Thank you. Alright, so now this is section 15 for some reason. Can you show me where the other sections are? Did I copy and paste this black background like multiple times? This is like my own personal hell. Like, I'm gonna send it back, send it back, send it back, send it back. Delete, delete, delete. Like, this is kind of crazy. I feel like I'm on crazy pills, people. So, can this show me where section... Alright, I can just rename the section. Alright, so you just watched me struggle for 1 billion hours. Oh my god, what did I just do? Yeah. This is like hands down one of the worst software. Not very intuitive. I could just be dumb. No, that's definitely in the realm of possibility, right? So section 8, please. Thank you. Okay, now we can get down to actual design work. Experience, not struggle. True. So, main design questions. And I'll make these as cards, right? So, main questions really are: how do waves versus rounds work? What counts as a wave? What counts as a round? I like how the bullet points didn't start from this one. Thank you. That's one question. How many cards can exist in a player's deck? Is there progression involved? Do we force players to something like that? Yeah, what types of cards can exist in a deck? ability cards, passive cards, weapon cards. I don't know about weapon cards. It's like maybe you choose your weapon and then the cards revolve around that weapon. But yeah, I like these ideas for ability cards that I have where yeah, I just don't know if the ability card. So do I say this ability is X and it gets, slotted into Y or something? Like, should there be card crafting, like, even before the round starts? Or is it all real time? Because there also has to be randomness into it. So I think weapon and weapon cards would just modify the weapon, since I guess you won't have that many weapons to guarantee. Let's say 20 cards. Yeah, that's a valid point where, in a perfect world, if I had like unlimited budget and unlimited resources and stuff, maybe there could be different weapons in that aspect of it. Like, you have a weapon card. It's like, okay, now you're dual wielding or something, and so your attacks are like double damage, or you have a great axe, so it's bigger and has a bigger, range of effect. Or it can just say, now your weapon, on hit will then propagate damage to nearby enemies. And then, or you could say like now your weapon deals fire damage or ice damage, or does 10 times more, not 10 times, but like 10% more damage to enemies on fire. So you could maybe build a deck like this, where it's like, okay, you're doing fire-based things, and having cards that are modifying weapons. It will allow players to de facto create their own weapons. That sounds kind of neat. Yeah. So I do wonder like how that could possibly work. Like, would there be cards that like change the behavior? So you have a card that says, okay, now your weapon has a special heavy attack, or is it just saying your sword does fire damage or something? Like, is there possible weapon-based progression that says you unlock kind of melee-based skills that you unlock like persistently in between rounds? So as you perform through each wave and each round, you get points, and these points can be then spec'd into your weapon or into your abilities or something like that. So you can say, okay, now now I can parry. For example, you unlock a parry ability, and then you can find cards that then augment that parry. So you could say, during the game, you activate a card, says, okay, for the next 30 seconds, successful parries deal damage or propagate fire, or if you parry some X thing, you get Y result. Okay, so behavior of both. Okay. That could be interesting. I just wonder where the progression lies, really. It's like, because like in my mind, how I would like to see some stuff. I want it to be very, very. I like the Picto system in Expedition 33, where like you have a Picto, you have to use it multiple times, and then it becomes available for everybody else, but you need a certain amount of points or something to equip it, I suppose. So I kind of want to use a similar system with some of these cards, and this could be a specific category of cards, so weapon cards or ability cards or something, where if you use this card X number of times, it becomes a permanent thing. So if you keep using, like, you know, a thunder spell card, it then becomes an option to be permanently equipped into your ability slot, so you'll always have it, maybe on some sort of cooldown. And then at that point, you can take that card out of your deck and replace it with something else. And so then you know you'll always have this thunder spell, so then you can kind of use different combinations of cards now to then do something else. So with this thunder spell, you can have a card that says, okay, your thunder radius is 10 times, I keep saying 10 times, 10% bigger. And so when you're using that passive ability card a number of times, that becomes a permanent unlock that you can then slot into the ability. I mean, maybe each ability has like 3 passives that can be equipped to it, and so you can like level these things up that way. In this case, progression would lie in unlocking more and more cards that would allow you to create more intricate weapon. That's true. I need to play that game. Yeah, I definitely recommend Expedition 33. It's really good. So the things that I know that I want. Let's start with something like that. So things. Wait just a second. The things I know I want. So, ability cards. So grants specific ability for X time, per wave, per round, X seconds, etc. Use ability cards enough, unlock that ability that can be permanently slotted into your loadout. And loadouts would be very interesting to have as well, so you could have different builds with different ability cards and stuff like that. So you could have, like, a barbarian build where all your abilities are just kind of physicalized in spec into your melee, and kind of build around that fantasy. And you could then you could build around a mage and things like this. Then I could say ability passive cards. So augments behavior of specific ability or ability types. Well, I'll say specific ability. So an example would be, Thunder has X% larger AOE. And it's kind of similar to the Picto system. There could be like certain ability passives require a certain amount of uses before they become permanently unlocked that you can then slot into, these kinds of abilities. That could work. Different passive cards can require more uses than others before becoming permanently unlocked. So using ability passive cards will unlock them. Okay, so permanent abilities. So I wonder if, like, at the very offset, there, like, I don't know how we should Like I think at the beginning in the early rounds, you should really just have a sword. And you kind of progress that way. So, you know, you have a sword, and then, you know, you have, I don't know, 10 cards to start. And, you know, we can, or maybe, yeah, you start off with a sword, you only play one round, like a tutorial level with just the sword or something. And then after the tutorial round, you're introduced to some card dealer or something. And there you can, he gives you a free ability card, like maybe like a Pokemon choice, where it's like, okay, do you want this one, or this one? You can pick. And so you pick that one, it's in your deck, and then you do the next round, you play that ability card, you unlock that ability for that round or that wave, you use it. It could have like a cooldown while it could be just like a permanent in terms of if it's activated during the wave or during the round, it can have a cooldown. And then, you know, after that wave is done or round is done, it's removed, and you have to, you know, play it again to use it again. Maybe I don't know if that sounds interesting. Because would it be kind of redundant to have to kind of keep activating the card when you want it? And, you know, again, how does that look like in practice, I suppose? I need to download a new version of Writer soon. Because like after each wave or round, what we're saying is like the ultimate, you know, encapsulation of the core loop. You know, and then you go back into the dealer, you kind of look at your deck again, kind of rebuild it, look at what's new, what you can then, you know, take as a permanent ability, replace then. And then, again, the things that, like, I guess that's going to be one of the main questions. Where, you know, how do we interestingly integrate see if I can spell it right. So how do we integrate card use activation into real-time action RPG mechanics without making the action redundant? I guess maybe, but the big part of it is like randomization, where like, you know, at the beginning your deck is, you know, shuffled, and so you don't know when a certain ability is going to be coming out. But then how do we kind of dictate? Because this kind of deck building kind of card game stuff works when there is some sort of turn-based element involved. I want there to be some sort of turn-based element to it. Like, I don't know if I want to like, I don't want to say like do we want to allow the player to, you know, play rapid fire kind of cards where it's like, okay, I play this ability card, I do this, I do this, I do this, and then, you know, that's kind of it? Or do we have to say like, okay, you play a card, you know, 10 seconds later you can play another card, or 30 seconds later you play another card, or do you play a card and then the AI plays a card and then you can play your next card? And so like there's a constant back and forth. Is there like if the player doesn't initiate a card, does that mean the AI will stop? And again, this AI is going to be like an invisible AI who's in charge of spawning these enemies and stuff like that. I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that AI to have like, you know, monster cards where it says, okay, I play this, and then these things come out. Maybe. But I just don't know really how that, like, what's the term I'm looking for? How that, like, meta gameplay is going to look. Because you're going to have that card game gameplay, and then you're going to have the, you know, action gameplay. Where, you know, you're running around, you're killing these enemies. So idea of game being reactive to play cards sounds neat. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of hoping to try to achieve. I just don't know how that would look. So open brainstorm. I should fix this crash though. As well. Just something to kind of think about. For example, if player plays cards that are connected to the fire, game may spawn enemies that would be more resilient, weaker to fire, for example. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And then, like, if you construct your deck in interesting ways, you could even have a counter to that. So it's like, okay, my guy is a fire dancer, but I also have, you know, trap or counter spell cards for certain situations. So, you know, the AI may not always do it, but when they do, you can have a counteraction to that where you say, like, okay, I'm a fire builder. Oh, he says I spawn, yeah, like a monster that's resilient to fire. And so then you cast a card that, I don't know, turns your fire magic into water magic for 30 seconds or a certain amount of time. So now you can deal significant more damage to them and you can destroy them or kill them. I don't know if I ever want to get up to the point for a player to ever be completely powerless. There should never be a case where they can't deal any sort of damage or have any sort of survivability. But it could be interesting, and that could be part of, you know, how the game progresses and gets more difficult, where if you do not construct your deck to have the appropriate kind of variability, but I guess variety is the word, you'll lose. The game should probably spawn enemies that are weaker to fire, so a player gets the feeling that his build means something, but in exchange, we spawn more enemies. That too. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to kind of think about, and you know, I don't know how I'm gonna make this game. I think it has potential. Yeah, countering player build directly sounds frustrating. Yeah. Yeah. But what I think could potentially be interesting is, because the game is split, if the game is split between these kind of separate layers of gameplay, we'll say, like one is the card deck building with that AI and countering everything, there is also, you know, this gameplay where you're this character, you're the one that's doing your moves, your abilities, what have you. There could be the potential where, although you're losing the meta game with the card game, like, you know, this guy is sending out monsters, you can't counteract with your cards or make yourself stronger, you still could have like the tactile advantage of being able to just, you know, deal damage, you know, dodge around and kind of have that. So like you're not completely lost. And also vice versa. So say your tactile gameplay is not the best. You can use these cards in that strategy layer to kind of balance that. So, you know, say you just, you know, kind of suck at melee combat, or you suck at, you know, I don't know, ability management. Okay, I made the game crash again. you can kind of counteract it with that layer of strategy. So what is what is breaking? Now, I think it's because, I destroy the actor at a certain point, right? I wonder if I move it down here. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, I think I see promise in this. I'm just not confident in the execution. So how do we integrate use activation into real-time action mechanics without making the action redundant? Randomization of cards, AI use of cards, I guess enemy variability. So yeah, I think we can also just focus on things I know I want. So we know we want to have ability cards, ability passive cards, so permanent abilities. So the player can choose to permanently slot an ability that's unlocked through ability card progression. So we could say, we could say, can there be progression with the number of abilities you have? I think that's not a good idea. I think you should only have a max of, 3 or 4. And so there becomes the kind of choice there. It's like, which abilities am I going to slot? How can I get the synergy that I want? How do I build towards it? Etc. Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's just quickly see if I broke the game still. Okay, now it works fine. Right? Yeah. Because also when you unlock an ability, do I still want to keep stamina in some sort of way? I kind of introduced that. Now I'm not 100% sure if I want that. I think having a simple cooldown gate is enough. So that could be something to remove. There could also be movement ability cards and stuff like that, where you can say okay, your base movement speed is doubled, or you can unlock sprinting, sliding, or maybe even jumping, or your dodges. Because one cool thing I want to have that I kind of prototyped and have currently is you could have a passive that you can then unlock permanently. What you can dodge through characters and set them on fire. I think that is a cool thing. So you could just be like, bam. Also, you can have charges in your cooldowns and stuff like that. But yeah, that could also be something there could be different categories, I guess is the way to say it. And I don't know if I want to support target like hard locking or anything like that. Okay, there is a bug where this is destroyed. I guess when an enemy is destroyed, does the ability end? I don't know. Another bug for another day, but yeah. So permanent abilities, the player could choose to permanently lock to slot an ability, unlock. So permanent abilities can have 3 to 5 passive ability slotted as well. I guess I could just say instead of permanent abilities, we could say permanent passives. So each, and like this was where the like kind of quote unquote pick-go mechanics can kind of come in, where like you permanently unlock passives. I'll say that you can still keep them as cards at that point, but then like at a certain point, I don't know, like there has to be like a limit, I guess, to how many permanent abilities and permanent passives you can have, and so that the builds can still remain like interesting. Tricky. But yeah, let's so Picto like mechanics. So passive ability cards can be unlocked permanently after X usages, different for each. So the player can choose to permanently. I should write it as the first bullet point here. So permanent abilities are unlocked by using ability cards X amount of times for each. So that way we can kind of gate progression potentially that way. So we know that. And what can count as ability cards? Like, do we include the movement stuff? Like, for example, you unlock sprinting. Like this, obviously, maybe sprinting is a bad example. Because, like, if you're gonna have some card that represents something, that card should be pretty meaningful. And for like an arena based combat game, how useful is sprinting? Maybe it is useful. You know, you can juke the enemies and stuff like that, so maybe it's not all lost. Sorry, I'm thinking not out loud. I'm just kind of thinking in my head. Like, I also think it could be interesting to have. I won't say companion card, like it's like summon cards or something, where you can summon certain things. Those could just be ability cards, I think. Or they could be their own kind of category as summon cards. Like you can never permanently unlock summon cards. And yeah, there will have to be a limit of how many of each specific kind of card can exist in your deck. And maybe that could be like on a per category or even per individual card basis. Good. Okay. Just so I feel a little more accomplished, I want to see if I can fix this bug with the this enemy thing. Because I saw that after I killed him, his thing never got destroyed. So like, I would have to kill him as he's shooting something at me. Just to reproduce it. So, all right, next one. So yeah, as you can see, this doesn't get destroyed. Oh my god, no new one. So I'm assuming something. Let's see. So NPC projectile. I just want to see, because yeah, it gets to here, so it probably has to be on canceled, right? So I assume when I kill the enemy, this thing gets removed and it counts as canceled. Quickly test that. But yeah, with the deck building aspect, I think there is a lot of promise there. Not just because I like the idea, but because I really think. Yeah, so yes, canceled. So we know that's true. So there should be some sort of performative cleanup. Honestly, I would want to move this to C++ at some point. So do I? So that's the targeting reticle, and this is. So I also don't create this projectile. So the projectile can probably live because it takes care of itself. But yeah, this thing probably would need to get destroyed. So. Well, let's see if that fixes that bug. Because again, another concern I have is how fast-paced the gameplay will be. Like, if you got little enemies coming after you, how much time do you have to like be switching between cards? Yeah, okay. So I technically fixed it, but I don't know if I like how that looks. Okay, for now, it fixes it. So I'm okay with that. So what else do we know we want? So yeah, I'm nervous about how much it's limiting to the cards versus what the player can block. Like something like blocking or parrying or something. Like, should that exist as like a a base mechanic, or is that also a card where we say, you know, you execute the card, you then can block, and it's kind of slotted to, you know, whatever, you know. Or is there just some foundational things that are just there, right? I think there should be some stuff that is just foundationally there. Like maybe parrying is like a card where it says, okay, you know, well-timed blocks to count as a parry, interrupts the enemy, whatever, right? And you know, how does that look like on a per class basis? So open main design questions. What actions do we label as base actions? Always available to the player. Is this class-based? Warrior class. You know, so basic plus, you know, heavy, special attack. Block, dodge, roll. Should there also be cards in the deck that act as like, you know, just potions and like those kinds of items, like restore, health, or should that not be a thing? So ability passive cards. I guess an open question is like, is that also like for like weapons? And ability cards, should it be weapon based? Yeah, one thing I also liked, and I think it also takes a mechanic from Clair Obscur a little bit, where their abilities can be augmented based off of certain mechanics within that character. So for one of the characters, Verso, he has like a ranking system. So I think you should go all in for the cards, even consumables. Okay. So we can put consumable cards here. Well, like I was saying, some of the abilities are augmented based off of performance. So, for example, in Clair Obscur, one of the characters' mechanics does that, and it says like, you know, if you have, you know, above A rank, so it's basically like the typical ranking system. Like I think it starts at D, so D, C, B, A, and S. And it says like, okay, when you're at A or above, this ability does this, and if you're at S rank, it does that. It would be interesting to find where I could use something like that, just because I want there to be some sort of scoring system involved. And I do want to kind of have that kind of benefit. The issue really is it works in a game like Clair Obscur because each turn you're seeing these abilities and you're seeing, you know, how they're augmented on a turn-by-turn basis, right? Whereas, you know, say it could make sense when you have the card in front of you. And so it's like, okay, activate this card. With S rank, it does this for, you know, extends the time to 2 minutes or something. But then does that translate to when you permanently unlock that ability or ability passive? And should all cards have that kind of mechanic? Maybe only passives do. And then does that rank-based augmentation carry over to the permanent unlocked passive option, or does it only exist within card form? Could that be a reason why you may not want to, permanently unlock the passive? Or is that a reason why you would want to? Because maybe, for example, say an ability passive is this. You have a Thunder, it's an AoE thing, and say, the passive card that you have is, increase the radius by 10%, but at S rank, increase it to 30% or something, right? And so after you permanently unlock the passive and you slot it into the ability, there's no more ranking in it. So it's like, okay, now it's always 10%. But you keep the passive in your deck so that when you're at S rank and you activate it, it will, inject that S rank modifier on top of it. Whereas if you don't have the S rank and you play that card, you wasted a card, because your passive already is permanent there. So maybe that could be some interesting choice where it's like, do I want to permanently unlock this passive so I always have it at the beginning of every round or wave or whatever, in sacrifice of never being able to have that additional augmentation on it? Or, what was the other thing I have? Like maybe, oh yeah, I do have stuff like summon cards and stuff, so that's good. Or do we say, like, now that you have the passive permanently unlocked, every time you use the ability or something, because like the problem is, like, if players will remember that augmentation, maybe it's not too much, for example. Like, maybe the augmentation exists even when you have it as a passive, but you'll just need to remember about it. So you'll know, okay, let me wait until I'm rank S and then use it. There's not going to be that constant turn-by-turn reminder like there is in turn-based games. But maybe in between waves or something, or obviously in between rounds, you can look at this stuff and kind of remind yourself of what you're trying to achieve. That I'm not 1000% sure. Oh yeah, sorry for people watching from YouTube. I just realized I wasn't on multi-stream, so I've definitely missed a bunch of messages. So where did you get that map from? So it's from asset packs that I got, and I just kind of put stuff together into a map. It's nothing really special, but it's marketplace assets that I put together. Same with the character and pretty much all the visual stuff. Hello, I have just joined game design course. Okay, Monster, that's great. I hope the course is going well. And then we have someone, hi, where did you learn Unreal? I learned Unreal Engine starting in UDK days back in like 2010 during college, and I've just been using it ever since. Learning on my own, using tutorials. Obviously, college was the beginning point of it. But now, now I work in the industry full time using Unreal Engine, so I use it almost pretty much every day, honestly. So yeah, sorry about missing those messages on the people from YouTube. You're probably long gone at this point, so sorry. So we know we want consumable cards. So consumable cards are never permanently unlocked, I think. So can't be permanently unlocked. Have a max amount of cards in deck. So we'll say, health potion is a consumable, but I can't really think. I guess consumables can also count as like global stuff. So like cooldown modifiers. What other consumables could there be? Maybe a consumable could also be involved with cards, where it's like, a consumable card could just say, draw 4 cards, or you can play it and it reshuffles your deck or something. So deck card modifiers. Reshuffle, redraw, discards for additional effects. But yeah, some of these things have to be kind of like brain dead. And when I say brain dead, I mean you don't have the option really during real-time gameplay unless you, I don't know, you happen to just juke around enemies or, in between waves or something. You have the time to think about it. But, for example, if there was a card that said, like, here's the 2 options, right? A consumable card that says, discard 2 cards, gain, 20% health regeneration for X time, right? It would be more difficult if it said, pick 2 cards from your hand to discard for X effect. Because then you have to take the input, pick the cards you want to discard, and then discard, right? Whereas the other option being, discard 2 random cards for X effect. And so the game will just pick 2 random cards. So it's a lot, like some luck involved. That could probably be better, and there's less thinking involved in that example. You just play it and the game handle it, and you don't have to really think past that. And I think that is the better option. But maybe there's some drawbacks there as well. But yeah, consumable cards are cool. I think I had a lost train of thought over here. So, ecto-like mechanics, passive ability cards to be allowed permanently after X usages. Just the open question. Should an ability passive card be removed from deck once slotted to permanent ability passive? Like we were saying, there could be benefits to keeping permanent there too. Stuff from there, like in the deck versus permanently in your kit. I know we want to do loadouts. So loadouts and multiple decks. Not our biggest priority, but something to consider too. And then I know I want overarching AI, right? So AI that plays cards, attempts to counteract player, can't seem too smart, I guess. Shouldn't explicitly punish the player, but challenge them. But yeah, then I gotta start thinking about other stuff. Like, I don't know what the prototype of this even looks like. I think for simplicity purposes, it would just be, you know, some cards that are just you can play, right? That just augment how, you know, your character not moves, but, you know, the stuff they have available to you, right? And then the other half of the prototype is having, you know, some enemies that are there that could do something, and that other AI that is manipulating them in some way, right? I think that's what our prototype needs to kind of look like, honestly. But yeah, I don't know how that's all going to look in practice. I should really make yourself like immune to projectiles while you're flying in the air, but I think that's a good amount of brainstorming today. I really like this idea. I hope it ends up being as fun as I hope it does. Because again, it's on paper. Like on paper, I don't know. This could be a pretty simple paper prototype in a way, because it's kind of like a card game. I do have to look at card game examples like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Gwent, and other deck builder kind of games. I can't remember. Darkest Dungeon is a deck building game. Darkest Dungeon. Because I tried playing Darkest Dungeon and that game wrecked my ass. But again, it's turn-based, and that's what makes it difficult, right? So turn-based, roguelike, 2D. I gotta look at deck builders. So roguelike, deck builders, a lot of options. Like I say, I don't want to make mine, I guess, roguelike in that regard, because yeah, a lot of these, so Spell Rogue, it's turn-based. Balatro is a good example. Like the use of cards and the drawing of cards and the execution of cards all have to feel really, really good. So yeah, Slay the Spire is also a good reference. I wonder if there's any examples of like real time. I'll have to do some research here, because a lot of them are turn-based in some way. Yo, yo, yo. Anoxidus. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. How you doing? How you doing? But yeah, I gotta look at, yeah, auto battlers. Not a good reference. Strategy, RPG, roguelike, fantasy, blah, blah, blah. I need to see if there's any real-time deck builders. And I also gotta think about why. If there aren't any roguelike, real-time action deck builders, I gotta ask why as well, right? Because maybe it just doesn't work in practice. But I feel like there's potential. And the base of the mechanic, I think, is in just the execution of the cards and the counterplay of the cards with the AI. And like the frequency in which you can use cards. Because I don't want to see, like, I don't want to make it explicitly turn-based, where you'd play a card, the AI plays a card, you play a card, the AI plays a card, and that can happen back and forth as quickly as possible, even during real-time combat. Because my worry is, you know, if we do a turn-based like that, if the player doesn't make a move, then the AI can't make a move in that sense, right? They can still be spawning enemies, the waves can still be appearing. But I don't know if there needs to be that kind of dance in between player and that overarching AI, right? Because maybe this, like, because again, my concern is like if the player can just bam, 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 be playing these cards at any time, maybe it's okay. It just depends on the type of cards that exist and how they utilize them, and like, if you kind of use all your cards at once, you're kind of screwed for the rest of the wave or round, whatever it might be. So maybe that's okay. And so there could be like asynchronous gameplay in that sense between, you in the deck building aspect of it and you in the action RPG aspect, and then what the AI is doing in real time and what the AI is doing in the deck building aspect as well. So there could just be asynchronous communication back and forth that way. So you could just wait and respond. You can not play any cards, just see what the rogue AI is doing and then respond accordingly, and then the AI will respond to those things. I think that is probably the best way to go about it. So if the player chooses to play every single card one after the other whenever they want, that's their choice. And that should not be a valid strategy all of the time, especially if we introduce randomness of cards. If we introduce, the number of cards that you can have at one time, it could just be 3 cards that you can choose from. You gotta use a card to then get a new one. You could choose to discard a card or something. So I think that could all work. So what is your game about, by the way? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because like right now, in real terms, what I have right now that you can play, it's just a basic kind of action game. You have melee abilities, right? You can use swords, you can dodge, you can dash, you can burn enemies, you can throw projectiles. It's all just foundational systems that kind of work, and you have like different types of abilities. Like instant ability, you have like AoE ability, duration-based abilities, and things like that. But like from that foundation, I'm trying to figure out what kind of game I want to make. And what I'm wanting to try to create is like I want to mix these real-time action elements with deck building. So basically you have your character, and your character can have, like, on a very basic level, a basic move set. So yeah, he can swing a sword, he can dodge, he can jump, he can do heavy attacks, what have you. But then you have these cards that can augment what you can do in game in real time. So you play a card, it's an ability card, and it slots into one of your ability slots that allows you to then, throw projectiles for, the duration of the wave, the round, for 10 seconds, for a minute. Or another ability, you unlock this ability that has cooldown, whatever. And then so you use these ability cards, to kind of craft your character for that round or for that wave. And then as you use cards more often, you unlock them permanently, then you can slot them into your permanent ability slots. And then you have maybe ability passive cards that augment what these abilities can do. So for example, this radius can be increased, or the enemies that are damaged here are, inflict burn. And so as you're using these passive ability cards, you can also unlock those permanently and slot them in with your main abilities. And you basically have to constantly rebuild your deck based on what you're permanently unlocking and what you're keeping as just within cards. And you can also maybe have summon cards. And so while you have that aspect, there is the AI aspect where I want it to be like a per round or per wave kind of thing, where enemies are being spawned of different archetypes and different flavors. But then there's this overarching AI that is also playing this card game. So they can play cards that give their enemies special abilities, or cards that dampen your abilities, and so you have to counteract with other cards from your deck that can say like, okay, you nullify these effects, or you are, you have trap cards or something that says, okay, any card played by this AI that is of this type is, just nullified or something. And so there's like that constant back and forth between real-time action between these kinds of enemies, so like these enemies that we can fight in real time, and then this like other high-level meta gameplay between you and the AI with your cards. That's more or less like, I guess, elevator pitch of what I want to try to accomplish. Someone from YouTube says, can you make a game like Free Fire or BGMI or Resident Evil 14 open challenge, sir? I don't know what Free Fire or BGMI is. I do know Resident Evil, but I don't know if I can. Give me enough time and resources, maybe. Just had an ad, but from what I saw, it's a really great idea. Will you use any features of UE5 like Nanite, Lumen, or virtual shadow maps? I don't know. I want to keep this art style. So very high fantasy, not cartoony, but stylized art. So I may not need some of those things. Obviously with like 5.6 and 5.7, they're trying to improve all of these things with, nanite foliage, eventually nanite skeletal meshes. So if I see improvements in performance by using these things, then yeah. Right now, I'm not too focused on the art style, as you can see. I want to make the game mechanically feel good. Like, I'm trying to make the melee feel punchy and impactful, trying to make the dodges look nice, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so temporal anti-aliasing, which is ew. Yeah, I want to make it so, like, I want it to look nice, obviously. I want it to perform nice, obviously. Like, as long as the art style and art direction that I want, which is pretty much what I'm getting from these, like, asset packs, right? Like, I'm not asking for anything more than this, really. But you can always improve. It's like the free stylized skybox looks nice. It has weather stuff. The character, I'm using the gameplay animation stuff from the Unreal example to do the motion matching stuff. I have like a placeholder sword in my hand. I have like all these like temporary projectiles and stuff, these icons, I think they all fit relatively well. So we're gonna have to just see. I realize you can cancel your melee abilities with the jump. That looks kind of cool. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this idea. Like, I'm just trying to kind of map out what I want to try to achieve, and then figure out what the prototype can look like. So the art style kind of reminds me of Zelda. Yeah, and Zelda's a cool game. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to try to achieve. So I'm going to need to still do a couple of design-oriented streams to kind of map out what I want to achieve. But that's the high-level idea. So I'm sure the prototype will have to be some examples of ability cards, some examples of passives. I don't think I need to do any kind of prototype with like the permanency aspect of it. I think if I can just have a couple of waves that work, a couple different enemy archetypes that kind of work, and then having the AI perform card-related stuff, and then you being able to perform card-related stuff, have some basic scoring system, and just mechanically feel good. I think that would be a good prototype, and we'll kind of have to just see where it goes from there, because this is just a side project, primarily educational purposes, so we'll have to just see how far we can take it. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, we've been streaming for almost 2 hours. I said I would only be streaming for about like 1, so I think that's where we're gonna end it for today. Yeah, sorry Talis, you caught the end. Sorry. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Yeah, hello, goodbye. So if you want to stay interested, definitely check out our Discord. Also check me out with YouTube. If you are new here on Twitch, make sure to follow me here. You can also subscribe. I usually try to put shorts up every once in a while. And since we have a good amount of people watching at the moment, we could raid. So if you guys will stay tuned, we can raid Auroral Games, which is playing Pact of Exile. So if you're interested in that, you can. So we'll give it a couple seconds. We'll let people go. So yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll probably do at least a week or two more of these design streams before we decide to move forward with a prototype. So you guys take care. Have a good weekend, and I will see you very soon.
We won the internet. Devins, thanks for the raid. What were you guys doing on stream? Thank you. We don't want these things. We don't need them. Nope. Who? Talk to you. Hey Delos, how you doing? Anoint items? What is this?